All right, I think actually we can go ahead and kick things off now. Welcome to our HR Year-End Balancing Act panel. We are super excited to chat with all of you today and share some insights from our amazing panelists. So let's go ahead and dive in and get started with some intros. I am the moderator. My name is Gabby Moore, and here are our panelists. So Hamutal, do you want to kick us off?
Of course. So, hi everyone. I'm Hamutal. I'm Chief People Officer for Snappy. Really happy to be here. Over to you, Tammy.
Thank you. Hi everyone. My name is Tammy. I'm the Chief People Officer at an amazing company called Carybne. It says on the slide where I'm based. I am in New Jersey, working out of the New York office usually, and I'm super excited to be here.
And hi, I'm Naomi Hertz. I'm the Global VP of HR for our go-to-market and marketing teams. I'm based also in New Jersey. And I'm very happy and excited to be here today.
Perfect. Thank you all. And while we're on the slide, let's do a quick lightning round. Please give me 1 to 2 words of how you would describe how you feel in Q4 as an HR leader. Our panelists will start, but please pop in the chat as well and give your insights as you're listening. So let's start with Hamutal again.
So my word for Q4 is breathe. Just breathe. That's all I have to say, but it's breathe in the momentum that Q4 brings in and breathe out a lot of execution. So that's my word.
We need to do that.
Yes.
Tammy, what about you?
Yeah, definitely breathe is a big one. For me, different than maybe what I shared with you on the panel a few days ago, I feel accomplished because, we're in the process now of starting to kind of summarize the year and look at everything that was done in planning for, the next year. So in addition to the stress and everything that comes with Q4 and being overwhelmed and exhausted, which is what I shared last time, I also feel accomplished because looking back is always a good practice, I think. And so that's my word today.
I love that. Accomplished. Starting off on a high note. Naomi, what about you?
Yeah, so I also, as I can share, I feel, and again, to continue with the high note, I feel very grateful. And I think that that's something, being at this point, the end of the year, looking back and looking ahead, it's like, and looking at the team also from my perspective, specifically my team, I'm very grateful for them. But it's also like I feel like I'm in a juggling act. So juggling would be another very good word right now for the feelings from now to the end of the year. So yeah.
Yeah, grateful and juggling. I love that. Thank y'all for sharing. And let's see, there's some folks popping in with theirs. So Kristen said same to someone's comment. And then Tika says rooted. Love that. Courtney said balancing. Thank y'all for sharing those. All right, let's go ahead and continue to dive into today's conversation. Can you next slide? Perfect. So before we move into our HR to HR conversation today, I wanted to take a minute to quickly introduce Snappy to those of you who are just meeting us today. So we are a corporate gifting company that helps organizations drive engagement, retention, and business growth through thoughtful, scalable gifting. So we are trusted by more than half of the Fortune 100 and have delivered over 7 million gifts globally. Our gifting platform supports use cases across the employee, customer, and prospect lifecycle, offering curated gift collections, branded swag, and global experiences, all through a thoughtful and magical digital experience. So with Snappy, there are so many ways to gift, and so we make gifting seamless. So for those of you who are thinking about planning for and in charge of holiday gifting this year, we're here to help you cross it off your to-do list while making it very easy for you and all of your recipients. So here's how we can help. If you have specific questions about Snappy, go ahead and just drop them in the chat, and we'll either answer them in the Q&A session today, or we'll make sure one of our sales team members connects with you after the webinar. All right, let's dive into today's conversation. So we would love for you to share in the chat, and also our panelists will answer this in a very lightning round fashion. Your best way that your company has celebrated employees during the holidays. Naomi, why don't you get started with this one?
So I think that we always we do like company events throughout the holidays to celebrate the teams. We used to do very big and elaborate company events, including significant others, and but we're changing that a little bit, and now we're actually going to have like big events in places where we have offices. And then we're going to actually send gifts to all of our remote employees so that they feel, even though they couldn't be at the party, they will receive some kind of gift from us. So we're gonna be doing that. And I think that for us, one of the most significant things that we do is also with the gifts, we will send like probably either a personal note from the leader or a personal video from the leader. So that's going to be like the differentiator for us.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Tammy, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what Naomi said, we do the same, and I think it works really well. Something that we've done in the past, and we're actually going to do this year in my current company, is also gifting the family. So doing something that people work, we're a startup company, people work really hard, the families pay a big price sometimes, a lot of times for their, spouses, significant others being so busy over weekends, nights sometimes. So we like to try to be creative and share something with the whole family if they have kids. For those we know have kids, if they have a spouse. So we're trying to make it very personal, and we're focusing on gifting the entire family, not just the employee.
I think holidays and family go hand in hand, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, Tammy, I was about to say I'm going to steal that one. Thank you for that. That's amazing. So actually, I'm going to share an idea that we're going to try out this year, and we just announced it in the company today. So we're basically going to try to do a peer-to-peer Secret Santa. So each employee will get a random name of another employee, and we just launched today a new AI function. We can speak about that a little later, but we're going to use this AI function to have different people find the things that this person likes through social media, through interviewing other people in the organization that know this person, and then create a specific and a special gift for that person to celebrate the holidays. So using Secret Santa, but in a remote and a caring way, in a very personalized way. That's what we're planning to do.
As a Snappy employee, I'm very excited for this.
Nice.
So thank y'all for sharing. And we're going to do one more lightning round question. So in 1 to 2 words, if you could wave a magic wand and eliminate 1 year into HR stressor forever, what would it be? Let's see, Tammy, you want to start?
Wow, I don't know how to answer that one. I need a minute. Eliminate one HR year-end stressor.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much I want to eliminate budgets. I hate doing budget season. Can I do it? No, but I would love to not have to deal with that ever again. So that's the first one that comes to mind. I don't know what else. Naomi, Hamutal, help me.
I'm 100% sorry, go ahead, Nancy.
Go ahead, Hamutal. Go.
I'm 100% with Tammy. That's what I would eliminate as well. Anything that has to do with planning budget for next year, if someone could just take it away and make it,
Yes,
disappear, that would be amazing.
Together with the Excels.
Together with
like anything in Excel, if we can eliminate that. And also, from my perspective, all the last minute requests and all, like when we ask, bring all the promotions up to this date so we can put it, bring all the other blah, blah, blah up to, and then there's one more that we just remembered and we're already at the end of the cycle, or there's one thing. So all these last minute requests, would love for them to
Budget, Excel, last minute requests, and then in the chat we're hearing open enrollment, benefits, client gifts. Yes, I think all in agreement.
Yes, double down on these as well.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for sharing. That was super helpful. So let's dive a little bit deeper in. Hamutal, I'm going to start with you. So many of our HR teams feel that the stress of being in charge of year-end gifting, and like we just mentioned, it becomes a scramble to get budget approval, gift approval, and everything else. What guidance would you give HR professionals to shift from giving a scramble, for being more scrambled, into a more strategic plan process?
Yeah. So I'll start by saying that I think end of year for many employees can be a very emotional time frame because first of all, you're trying to finish the year with a strong note from a performance perspective. You want to make sure that you're at your best performance, the company is at your best performance, and that is a huge stressor. So that's number one. And then in parallel, you have holiday and family and travel to the family, and that becomes very emotional. And you start doing a lot of retrospective and what have I achieved this year and maybe I didn't achieve this year. So this whole time frame, both from a personal perspective and a professional perspective, is very emotional. So I feel that people are hypersensitive and they need to be seen. They need us to really, really see what they're going through. Now, I'm a big believer that gifting has the power to make people feel truly seen. So I never take gifting as something that is just a, check the box because I think it does have the power to actually help us when we're trying to balance those two things. So from my perspective, I think there are four things that I try to do every year. The first one, the budget for gifting is that budget, going back to planning, that is like at the end of the Excel. It's a big amount. And then throughout the year, you use so much budgets and you look at that amount and you're like, oh, maybe I'll take a little bit from that. Maybe I'll take a little bit from that. So I guard this budget with everything that I have and not use it for anything else. Because when people need to feel seen, giving a low amount of budget for gifting of end of year just feels very wrong for them. So that's like the first tip that I have. The second tip that I have, I don't know what about you, but always when you get to end of year, people start speaking about, okay, we just want gift cards. We want money. We don't want a gift. Just give us money. Just give us money. And I am maybe a little old-fashioned from that perspective, but I feel just like, with friends, people that you give a real gift versus people that you give a gift card just sends a different message. So when, just fight for not giving a gift card. That's like the second tip that I have. And then the third tip, start planning early because when you I think one of the biggest problems that we have is that you need to reinvent yourself every year. You need to come up with something new every year for gifting. And you need enough time to plan for that. So I think, that's the third tip that I have. And the fourth one, find a way to make it easy from an operational perspective. So any way you can, whether it's through a system or not through a system, but make sure that you have your operational, how you're going to send those gifts sorted out, because otherwise it just becomes like this nightmare. So those would be my four tips.
Okay, so if I heard what you're saying make sure we guard the budget, that we are fighting against gift cards, we plan early, and we make it operationally light and structured. That's
Exactly.
Excellent. Thank you,
Thank you, Gabby. That was very well put. I should have let you answer the question.
No, the context was helpful. Okay, thank you so much. So Tammy, we're gonna move over to you. So recognizing our employees and showing appreciation are crucial to engagement, but they're often the first things to fall through the cracks. Why is that? And what's the cost to companies when that happens? And we also have an opportunity for you to share in the chat. So please look at the question on the screen. Tammy, you can go ahead and answer.
Yeah, so I think just like Hamutal, I think gifting and being thoughtful and see people goes a very long way. I think it's hard to quantify the impact, right? It contributes to satisfaction, engagement, retention, right? It contributes to all of it, but it's really hard to measure. You can't really measure one-on-one and one-to-one. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's sometimes forgotten and managers don't pay close attention to it, right? Because the day-to-day always takes, is always more important than taking a minute and thinking about your teammates and try to meet them where they are. And, just managers deal with so much. It's just one more thing that usually kind of, just like it's the end line of the line in the budget, it's also the bottom of the priority list for a lot of different managers. So I think that's one aspect of it. I think the other one is also I always get questions from managers. So I want to recognize this person. What do I do, right? Even though they have a line item in their budget, even though we do have a platform or a way of doing it, even though there's a people team that is, trying to engage, they always seem confused. So I think making it, dumbing it down and making it, just so simple is something also really important, because when it's an item on their to-do list and they don't know how to go about it, then it's never the top priority and it just goes away and then they forget about it. So that's another thing. I also think that for me at least, gifting is not, year-end is important and holidays are important, but it's something that should be continuous, just like feedback, right? It's another way to recognize when somebody's doing something great, recognizing them on the spot versus at the end of the year trying to remember that person did something amazing. So I think that state of mind of thinking about it constantly and making it part of the culture and part of the mandate for managers, that it's their job and they need to think about it, and they need to find the opportunities. I always tell managers, you tell me. I'm never going to come to you and say, why don't you gift that person, even though I have the knowledge sometimes. You tell me when somebody did someone amazing. You tell me when someone's in trouble or they're going through a personal thing. It's your job as a manager. It's literally part of the job description. So I think that is lost sometimes. It's put on HR as a task, as something we need to do once a year, twice a year, whatever. But for me, it's really a manager tool. It's part of their toolkit to make sure that they're good managers and they have very strong teams that feel engaged and recognized, and retaining them and all of that good stuff. So I think it's the combination of all of these things that just, it just literally drops off the list, even when there is an opportunity to recognize someone in a very meaningful, thoughtful way.
I love that, Tammy. And two things that stood out that you're saying is that we can partner with our managers to help them show them how to be thoughtful when they're gifting, and to really also infuse it into the culture of the organization so that it's throughout the year and it's not just designated for the end of the year.
Right.
I love that. Thank you. And just a reminder, if you've ever felt that recognition has deprioritized during the year, drop a little hand in the chat. We'd love to hear that from you. And then Naomi, what have you found to be the most effective way to maintain employee engagement during the high pressure end of the year period?
So I think that really ties to what both Hamutal and Tammy spoke about here. And I think that it's making sure that employees are seen throughout this time, and that we acknowledge that this is, a stressful time, and that we know that there are a lot of things happening and we're juggling many balls in the air, and acknowledge that and help prioritize and be able to or to allow the teams also to say no to some things, right? And make sure that they have that and they see that you as their manager see that. And when I say, and that goes back to also what Tommy just said, it's on our leaders to do that. It's not an HR job. It's not for us to go and pulse check and help. It's the leaders that should be doing that. And I think that in a way, I would say, I sometimes tell my team, it's like a celebration sprint that we're doing at the end of the year, right? And it's not, and mostly, again, like I said, acknowledging and seeing the teams and helping them out. So I think that those are the things that I would say in terms of keeping them then engaged.
Thank you for that. And I love this through line in all of the conversation about making sure our employees feel seen. I think that's like something I would love for us to take away from today. So thank you for that. All right, Naomi, I'm coming back to you again. So
okay.
How do you set the tone for your organization during Q4 to keep teams focused and supported?
So I think that it goes back to what I just said now in terms of helping them prioritize and making sure that they are seen. I think that one of the big things is what are we saying no to during this time also? And I can give an example. We run our engagement survey now at the end of the year, but we tell our teams, you are not touching the engagement survey or the results until after kickoff, which is the second week of January. We're running it now because it works for us calendar-wise. It works for us for what we want to check, everything. But the actual results and then what are we doing with them? That's already a 2026, priority. So don't touch, right? Unless you're really, you really want to peek in and see, but in the sense of we're not working. So to know to say no to some things, right? And for us as HR leaders also, we make sure again that our leaders do that with their teams, right? And I think that that's very important. A lot of check-ins within the teams also to make sure that everyone is okay. And a lot of celebration also. I think that it's a good time to celebrate. And if it's the gifts, so we don't do everything only in December. We're gonna do, for example, we're gonna do a toast everywhere in the world, like just, meeting online with everyone to just raise a toast for the end of the year. That's going to be in November. And then we're doing the parties later in December. We're sending the gifts throughout this time. So that's another way to kind of keep everyone focused and supported, feeling supported.
Yeah, keeping the engagement high is going to help morale and help people stay focused, I think, for sure. Thank you for that insight. Tammy, how have you used internal communication to align your organization during the hectic and stressful Q4 period? Can you provide examples?
Yeah, I in general, I believe that in times of stress, whether it's a year end or COVID or anything else, any big events that we need to manage through require planning. So very, very thoughtful and planned communication. So I like to prepare plans. Like for Q4, as an example, we have a communication plan that addresses the company-wide type communications, the on-the-ground day-to-day communication, the my own team and how we communicate. I think the communication needs to be different in times of high stress and high stakes, right? Which is what this is. So we do things as an example. I call it the final push communication. We call it differently in different places, but on our operations teams, as an example, there's a specific set of meetings and communications from the COO down to the teams that is called the final push year end. What do we have in front of us? What do we absolutely have to accomplish? How are we tracking against those year-end goals? And what, like Naomi said, what is also off the list? What are we not going to focus on because it's deprioritized? But having ongoing communications throughout, the quarter, the Q4 time period is super, super important. The huddles are a little bit different when, teams meet throughout that period. We have a team in Israel, as an example. September was a month of almost no working at all. So they're coming back now and they have very short time span for sprints on the R&D side and things like that. So how do you communicate with those teams specifically throughout that period? So very thoughtful and planned communication plans and adapting them to the specific teams and their needs. But it's truly around what do we absolutely have to accomplish before year end and what is it that we can push. And for those things we absolutely have to accomplish, for people to have the context of why, right? There's a lot of stress on us to complete the budget, but we need to understand why. Why is it not happening in January or February? What's the target date? When is the next board meeting? Why do we need to be ready for that board meeting? So giving teams the context and saying why we need to accomplish things is also very important. So this is all part of a very thoughtful communication plan for that specific time period.
Yeah. And I think explaining why is super critical, right? So people understand and they're bought in, and then they understand why we're doing the things that we're doing in Q4 versus Q1. I think that's really insightful. Thank you. We're going to do a quick pause for the chat. So do you work closer than ever with your internal comms team during year end? Would love to hear your thoughts in the chat. While you type, Hamutal, I'm going to ask you a question.
Sure.
All right. Many HR leaders are also managing their own burnout while supporting others. What are your tips for modeling boundaries and balance for your teams during this time?
Yeah. I think I would start with a question that is like even previous to that question, which is, are we even allowing a conversation about burnout, especially in Q4? And I think it goes back to what Naomi said and what Tammy said about prioritizing and communicating and saying no to some things, especially in Q4, when managers are asked to deliver. They are put right in the middle there in a very, very difficult place. So they need to hold and to be accountable for results, but on the other hand, they also need to take care of their teams and make sure that they're actually being able to deliver those results. So I think we have a role to play here as HR teams. And I think holding that space in the middle and saying, hey, yes, we are going to deliver results. And yes, it is very difficult. And we can say it's difficult. We can say it is a place where people can feel burnout. And just by allowing the space to call it burnout and to say there is a risk of burnout, that by itself reduces our falling into burnout in a dramatic way. And I think if we have or take the place of giving managers tool to hold that place with us. So for example, giving managers space to start each team meeting with a few and I know that my colleagues here have some cool tips, so I'll let them share in a minute. But just being able to start the conversation with your team every week with something that has to do with, hey, how are you doing? What is going on with you? In order to enable that balance and that conversation about it's okay to be human. It's okay not to focus only on execution, even if it's just 5 minutes. So I think this is the way that we allow the conversation on burnout in the organization, and we give managers tools to actually deal with them. And I know, Tammy, you shared like a cool tip for us on how to do that and how you're doing that with the team. So maybe you can share that.
Yeah, of course. Happy to. I will just maybe add, Hamutal, to what you just said. It has to be genuine. Because, I find, at least from my experience, we can ask managers to do that, but if it's not genuine, if they're not actually looking their teams in the eye and actually listening to what they have to say and actually trying to resolve some of the conflicts, challenges, prioritization, then it's almost worse than not asking at all. So I will just add that, managers need to fully buy in and understand why it's important and do it genuinely. And I think what Hamutal is referring to is that there's a philosophy for team management called level 10 meetings, which I've used in previous companies for executive team meetings. I don't love all of it. It's really interesting. I don't love all of it, but there's one small piece of it that I took with me, which is starting every minute with good news. So it literally is just around, I used to do it with my team, but initially it's a little uncomfortable. So asking people to share, I'll start sharing my good news and then have others share their good news. And then it becomes part of just the routine and how we start every single meeting. And what it does, it again, allows for this space, we're not going to talk about work immediately as we step in. We're actually going to talk about other stuff. And good news can be professional or personal, but either way, it's not going to be, here's our project, where do we stand against it, why didn't you do your job, or none of that. It's truly just a group of people coming together talking about good news, which is one, very uplifting, and I think we all need to hear good news as much as possible. Two, it creates a lot of connections in addition to the day-to-day job because you get to learn about somebody having a birthday, or meeting someone that they haven't seen in a very long time, or going on a trip, or whatever it is. And it creates, when it becomes a routine, it creates just a continuous conversation that is different than what is typically happening, especially with remote teams. They don't see each other all the time. So I love good news in general. I always look for them because the world is not always giving us that, or at least not enough. And doing that with the teams is a very, very powerful way that I found to stay connected. So.
I think I'd love to add, Gabby, just a quick note on that. First of all, I tried it this morning with my team, and I have to say it's amazing. So thank you, Tommy. And second, I think that also for us kind of to lead by example and make sure that we ourselves are taking care of ourselves as leaders, as HR, and showing up, in the best way. And that includes, I don't know, continuing any other routines that we have, like going to the gym, or making sure that our teams are taking time off, even through this, and allowing that to the point where, it works with the business, of course, but to make sure that we're doing all these things, even during this stressful time, because I think that goes back, to the teams seeing that we are seeing them, and also it really helps with burnout, obviously. So it's just
Yeah.
I just want to say I'm so happy that all of y'all answered it, because I think it just models how you all are as leaders are really, you feel very strongly and passionate about modeling balance and reducing burnout. So thank y'all for all answering that question. Okay. We're going to go to the next question, and actually we will start off with asking for you all to engage in the chat. So how have you used gifting to engage employees? Would love to hear your answers in the chat. I'm sure all of you have found ways to use gifting at some point. And we'll let you type a little bit. And Tammy, can you share more about how you've used gifting to engage employees?
Yeah, so I kind of hinted earlier about that, but I'm all about personalization. I really I agree with Hamutal 100%. If I see a gift card, I'm not going to be happy because I think that's just the easy and very unthoughtful way of just checking the box and sending someone something. I really don't like that. I would rather not do it than do that personally. And just to use a few examples, maybe from my past, 2 companies ago, actually, we had someone on the team, on the customer success team, which, at least from my experience, it's always a team that is with a level of very high, high stress, because they are the kind of the front lines with the customers, and there's always challenges. It was a very high intensity period. I think it was during COVID, actually. And I heard in the hallway that she was moving to a new apartment with another colleague from work, and they were very stressed about it. So we sat down as a team and said, what can we do to help them? And what we did is we bought them a gift that would be someone coming and unpacking their boxes. So it was very specific at the very right kind of moment in time for them. And it just, the whole organization was talking about that specific gift. It wasn't very expensive. It was just very, very specific to what they needed at that moment. And it went a very, very long way. 1, they felt heard and seen. And 2, it actually helped them, on a very stressful day. So I love finding those opportunities to know that someone is going through something, whether it's positive or negative, and making it very, very, very personal and specific. I will, like Hamutal mentioned, sometimes ask the manager to write a handwritten card, and we will add it to the gift, because that, again, shows someone that somebody's thinking about them genuinely and not just, so that's what I find that those are the most engaging and most satisfying, and I think rewarding ways of again seeing and recognizing. So I'm all about the hyper personalization, and that's what I ask my team to do, to keep their ears open, understand what's going on, keep the sentiment of everyone in mind, and know that we have the tools to do it. We just need to do it in a way that will actually add value and create impact. So.
I love that personalization and just infusing day to day. So finding something that is really helpful for the employee and gifting them that, like the movers, like that's amazing. And then in the chat, I also see anniversaries, definitely years of service, shout outs. Okay, so our company is very generous with gifting. We always have a theme for what is happening in the company. We have a disco theme in the office with an on-site health screening. That's really cool. So the gift we sent out was a staying alive box with a small box of Kleenex, Tylenol, emergency, and lip balm. That's really innovative. I love that. So there are some great ideas out there of how to keep it personal, but also find ways to engage our employees. Thanks for sharing, everyone. Naomi, holiday gifting is one of the most visible ways companies show appreciation. In your experience, how does holiday gifting impact employee morale? Does it have a lasting impact beyond year end? We'd also love to hear your feedback in the chat. Naomi, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what Hamutal and Tammy spoke about. I think that it has an impact if the employees feel that there was thought behind it, right? Because again, if we're just sending a gift card or something generic, right? Then if they feel that it was just to tick the box because everyone gets a gift at the end of the year, then I think that it's maybe nice at that moment and that's it. But I think when you show that there was thought behind, or if you do it, like I think Tommy mentioned before, as a gift for the family. So something that is inclusive that they can celebrate all together, or a gift that has some kind of meaning for the team that we are aware of. And even different gifts for different teams, probably same value, of course, but different so that it also kind of connects with them and resonates and stays there. So I think that those do have impact. So again, if it's just to send a gift, I would say it's nice and and everyone will enjoy it at the moment, but I don't think it has a lasting impact. But if we're looking obviously at increasing our engagement and minimizing attrition, sorry, lost the word, and minimizing attrition and having people really feeling that they're part, it's more than just coming to work. It's being part of the company, of the, of the values that we're standing for, then I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. An audience would love to hear how you think the impact holiday gifting has on employee morale as well. While we'll keep talking, we also are going to ask, what is your biggest gifting challenge is our next question. And so Hamutal, I would love for you to touch on this as well. So employees today, as consumers, expect personalization. How do you make gifting feel meaningful without overwhelming your team with logistics?
Yeah. And I'll start by relating to two things that Tammy and Naomi said. We've been at Snappy, we've been trying to actually measure how much gifting has an impact of people feeling seen. And we're measuring it only inside, and it's still like a pilot that we're doing, right? But we're seeing that the main element that is impacting people feeling truly seen through gifting is the element of personalization. So you nailed it, exactly what you said. I totally agree with you. And I think personalization is in all kinds of levels. It's thinking about the gift that you send, thinking about the message that you add, as you said. It's also about the timing, right? So throughout the year, sometimes a surprise gift, not a gift that is coming in a time that you're expecting to get it, or from a person that you're expecting to get it. That is also something that creates that an interesting or a feeling of like someone saw me in a moment that I wasn't expecting. And throughout the year, the way that we do it, we actually try to have gifting, as we said before, not only fall on us as the people team, but we actually try to spread it and give managers budgets to give and give employees budgets to give and give, right? So all types of, a lot of people in the organization giving inside, and every single person brings their own thought into it and their own personal touch to it. So people feel that it's personalized. So I think, that's what we do throughout the year. And I almost want to say that with end of year and any other gift, if you start with what you want to say through the gift, actually start the opposite way around. So, what is the message that I want this gift to say? What is the message that I want this gift to convey? And it could be in a very personal way. So, if it's a colleague or if it's a manager, but it's also on a company level. So, end of year, what is the main message that we want to convey to our employees? How can we use this message to create the right gifting experience, both of the gift itself and then the how we do it? What do we send? Is it a video recording? Is it a reveal experience that is cool? Is it part of the holiday toast? Is this part of that, right? So go the opposite way around, and I think that makes it very personalized. And it really helps with logistic element, because if you understand what your company went through in the past year, so for example, a company that just became global, you need to have different cultures in that gift, representing that gift. You need to have maybe the new AirPods that translate to different languages, right? So you start with what is the message and what are you celebrating, and then you go to choose the gift, and then you go to choose how you're going to reveal the gift, what are you going to send. So that's my tips around personalization and gifting.
Hamutal, thank you. That's so strategic. Yeah, starting with what message you want folks to receive, I think is really important. And Anne also shared a pain point. So just getting something everyone likes and appreciates. Everyone has different tastes, and we want them to know that we see their character and personality. I think that's spot on. And I just want to say, Snappy can help with that. We'd love to connect with you after to talk about how we can help you with that. All right. So rounding out the conversation, Naomi, HR teams are under a ton of stress to prove the ROI of everything that we do. So what role does HR play in helping our executives to understand that engagement isn't separate from business goals, but it actually fuels them?
So I think that's that's our role throughout the year, and not just at the end of the year. And I think that's one of the main things that we keep doing without necessarily doing anything. It's not like I will show in a presentation how I mean, we would do that, but not for the ROI that I'm talking about throughout the year, because I think that at the end of the day, we just need to show that everything that happens within the business is actually impacted by our teams, right? That they were the ones that created that, and that is impacted by our leaders. Like there's correlation between everything, between recognizing the teams. We can also see that teams with high engagement rates, and we can show that there's a lot of data that to support that, within the organization, has better output. We can show, so really as a people's team, I think that relying a lot on data that we have, and some of it is data that we get from the different systems we're using, and some of it is also just data that we're gathering or soliciting from the teams themselves, in conversation. So you have kind of the raw data, and you have the things that we're hearing, objective and subjective data that we're using to show. And what's mostly important, I think, and to always remember that we need to speak the language of the business when we're communicating that. And really, at the end of the day, as HR partners, we are partnering with the business, and we need to talk and converse in the same language. And so, and then the leaders understand it as well, you know, and so that's my kind of 2 cents around that.
Yeah, that's a great soundbite. I'd love to pull out, speak the language of the business. Like, I think that is critical. So thank you for sharing that. And I also want to take a quick pause and just say, any questions that you have, please feel free to put them in the chat. We're hoping to have some time to answer them, but if not, we'll answer them after the call, follow up with you. Hamutal, can you share a time when a strategic recognition of or gifting initiative had a direct impact on both people and performance?
Yeah, so again, it's not really fair because we're a gifting company, but we actually use gifting for performance. So Naomi, this one is for you because you lead a go-to-market team, but our go-to-market team uses gifting as part of the spiffs. So instead of only providing money, we provide gifting. And as we said before, gifting has a totally different experience and impact when you use gifting versus gift cards or another form of money. So we've been doing that. And one of the things that we're measuring this year to see if we do have impact and if people that are getting those gifts are actually performing well. I will have that data at the end of the year to share. But we are thinking of expanding it because it has been, the intuition says it's been really successful. So we're planning to expand that and actually use some sort of gifting game, some sort of like a board virtual game to actually measure KPIs for the rest of the organization through the incentive of getting more and more gifts as you move along and as you basically meet your KPIs. So making the full area of performance and KPIs and that is normally very heavy, both in terms of lifting and in terms of what it creates in the organization. We've all been through the process of trying to embed OKRs and then deciding not to embed them because they take too long and they're not right. So we've all been back and forth. So creating a game of gifting for that, I think could really, really make a difference and could increase performance in a very significant way. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that.
Me too. I'm like, I love data like that. That's very insightful. Thank you, Hamutal. Tammy, we're going to ask this question, but I'd also love the audience to answer this question. So in the chat, can you let us know what is one way that your team sets the tone for year end? So Tammy, let us know one way that HR teams can relieve some of that stress from the year end while also still delivering recognition programs that matter to our employees.
First of all, I would love to see the data, Hamutal, because as I mentioned before, we all have the intuition that it goes a very long way, and I think it definitely helps, but quantifying it and understanding how much, that would be amazing. But going back to the question about year end, year end is a time, as I mentioned, maybe a little bit at the beginning, from my perspective, it's a time for reflection and planning, right? Like a lot of the time we spend is on closing the year, opening the year. And I actually specifically at year end like to use recognition for performance recognition publicly, right? Often you do it kind of in small forums or teams, but publicly across the company. And I always like a combination. I do think money is important, especially for go-to-market teams. There's no way around it. I don't think personally it can be one or the other. I think it needs to be the combination of the two. So I do invest time in figuring out what is the best mechanism to recognize what's most important for each company that I've worked for at the end of the year publicly across the entire organization globally. Because I do think that the combination of a really nice, thoughtful recognition gift and the public recognition aspect of it at year end goes a very long way. It sets goals for others who did not achieve that milestone in their career. It explains exactly how you should get or you can get there. So I'm focusing toward year end, other than the holiday piece, which is really important. I'm focusing on more of the public recognition aspect and that kind of closing and opening, setting the tone for the next year.
And I'll add to that. So one of my favorite things that I've done in the past is Oscars, right? So it's like Oscars recognition at the end of the year. but always for the serious stuff, which is who met their goals, who didn't meet their goals, performance, et cetera, but also for the cultural, non-formal stuff and the funny stuff, right? So I used to work in a company that ping pong was a big thing. So we had the winner of the ping pong, get a recognition, or the one that sends the most slacks, or the ones that put the funniest picture in this and this competition, or whatever it was. Just making sure that we're celebrating both and we're balancing both, and I think it makes it funny and fun. So yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Naomi, anything you wanted to add?
No, that I love all these ideas. I'm gonna steal some of them. And also, I think we many times connect the acknowledgement and the gifts also to our values. It's another great way I feel like because each company has their values, and it's great, and posters on the wall and all that, but you really want it to be part of the culture and part of what you're doing, and for people to really feel the values from within, right? So you want it to show up in the way we behave. And so I think that's one thing. And I will say that for us at Celebrite, one of our values is celebrate. And so this is another, it goes also on that aspect, that we continuously celebrate our wins, our successes, people in general. And so I think that's very important as well.
Love that. Double click on the values. I think that having lived values is one of the best ways to bring the culture all together. And so that's such a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. I know we are running tight on time, so let's do a lightning round of one last question. So would love also audience participation. So if you could describe your ideal year end in one word, what would it be? And whoever from our panel wants to kick this off, go ahead.
So if I was already talking about the celebration, so I would say celebratory, like that would be the word for me for end of year.
Love that.
For me, maybe it's a little cheesy and less work related, but peace, just finding peace at the end of the year from all the crazy of everything. So for me, this year at least, it would be that.
And I'm going to say energizing success. So if we could leave Q4 with like a feeling of a lot of energy stepping into next year, that would be amazing.
Love that. So celebratory, peace, and energizing success. I think the combination of all three words could be an amazing Q4. And in the chat, we have no emergency communications and everything checked off on my list. Yes, that is a dream. Whole. I love that. What other words do we have? Words, questions, anything that you all have. These are good. A plan for the next year. Yeah. I think that's everyone's wish list, is to be prepared for the next year. Awesome. Oh, thank you so much. This has been great information. Thank you to our amazing panelists. Such a wealth of knowledge.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it was really fun.
I'll give a couple more seconds in case any more questions or comments pop in before we wrap. And we do have a question via Slack. So have any of you dealt with rethinking your Q4 engagement plans as you shifted from remote to back in office?
Do either of you want to start?
Go ahead.
So, I think going back, so becoming remote or the remote versus in office in terms of engagement is massive. I think it's a super important and difficult topic to deal with, to be very honest. I think we were all in some sort of like for a while we thought that being out of office doesn't have impact on engagement, but I actually do believe it does. And I think what it requires, and this is something that that we're trying to do in two different ways. It requires, from my perspective, two things. Every interaction that you have, make it very personal. So having people to meet like each other on a personal level when they meet, and allowing people to bring passions of their own that are outside of work, inside of work in different ways. So if you love to bike, then bring biking inside of work. If you love to, whatever it is, just bring it inside of work. And I think the same goes for a holiday or for engagement during the holiday. So how can we make sure that people are bringing personal things inside? This is why we decided to do the Secret Santa thing, to bring something personal from who I am as a person inside in order to create that connection in a remote world. So that is my 2 cents.
Thank you. And I think we can maybe squeeze one more question in. How do you share appreciation with your HR team during Q4 when they're all working very hard to make sure everyone else feels appreciated?
So first of all, that's a very good point of remembering to do exactly what others are doing, right? And we are talking to the leaders and kind of helping them. And like Tommy said, you know, they we're expecting them to do that. So we should be doing that as well with our teams, the appreciation. And I think for me also, like I mentioned before, you know, of being able to see them and let them and help them in what they need throughout this time, and also let them have the time with their families. From my perspective, you know, even though we're in the middle of marriage process and all that, I will never not allow, you know, taking some time off or you know, making sure that they're not working all the time, the crazy hours that we are working at the end of the year, and to kind of see them and acknowledge that. So not to forget our teams. Yes.
Thank you. Such great insights. We're right at time. I just want to say thank you, Hamutal, Tammy, Naomi, for your time today. We really appreciate it. And thank you, Snappy team, for putting this together.
Thank
Have
you,
a great.
Gabby. Thank you, Gabby, for leading this, facilitating this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.